And eventually I will defeat these bosses, and we will talk about Fall of the House of Usher, because I do want to talk about that show quite a lot. It's very good. Flanagan's most consistent one, maybe ever. Like, I think it's probably his best ending, I'd say. I don't know that that's definitely the case, but I think it might be. I gotta watch Blind Manor again. That's what I gotta do. I couldn't get through Midnight Club, so if Midnight Club is secretly incredible, it just, I don't know, man. The Zoomers talking about their stories, I couldn't do it. It was, and it was constructed just so weird, with it almost being like a parody of the Mike Flanagan shows in some ways. I don't know. The Fall of the House of Usher, which is the name of an Edgar Allan Poe story, which I actually wasn't even aware of. Actually, I sort of figured that out when I started looking up, hey man, I should get a collected works of Edgar Allan Poe, because man, it was a good show. It was quite the good show, and it made me want to read some Poe. See, I'm something of a poet as well. But anyways, as Mike Flanagan is directing yet another Netflix series, standalone horror Netflix series, single season, limited series kind of deal, and it was incredibly well done. I think I'm a big fan of a bunch of the Edgar Allan Poe stories that are covered in there, like The Black Cat, and which is really a very short read, by the way. Most of these are, and they're expanded quite a lot for this show. The Telltale Hearts, a good one, and really done very well there. The Pit and the Pendulum, I didn't really remember very well, but man, if it's represented at all here, then Jesus, that's a pretty brutal story as well. And of course, The Raven, as well as a few others. Pretty much every episode, it's 9 episodes, I want to say. I think it's 8 episodes. 8-episode series, very, very strong. It adapts Edgar Allan Poe stories over a running story, like a season-long story arc, about a family who are big wigs in big pharma. Like they're a wealthy family of which many members are into different business things, doing different stuff, but their money, their family money, comes from this company called Fortunato that's basically supposed to be like a Pfizer type deal, right? Like a long-standing pharma company who are very much responsible, at least in this world, for the opioid crisis because of a fictional opiate that they made called Ligadone, which I found was funny because all I could think of was ligma. Got a serious case of ligma. You know what I'm saying? Diagnosed with severe ligma, terminal ligma. Someone in the comments is replying ligma balls, but that's neither here nor there. But anyways, the fictional opioid Ligadone is, I guess, supposed to be a stand-in for OxyContin or oxycodone, and yeah, it's pretty neat how it deals with all of these different people in the family. And at the beginning, the very first episode of the show, so I would argue that this is not a spoiler, you find out that pretty much every single one of them is dead. And this is the patriarch of the family, Roderick Usher, basically kind of telling the story of how each of them died to this guy, an investigator of sorts, that I won't go too much into the detail of why he's looking into it, but he's been a guy that for most of his life has been trying to take down Big Pharma because he thinks that the stuff they do are not very ethically sound, which, I gotta say, wherever you land on the political fence, I think most of us can agree that there's probably some shady dealings going on in the pharmaceutical industry, maybe which will have disastrous effects for multiple people in this world. And I think the ending of the show gave first a very good kind of more direct political allusion to modern day, and then they end it with sort of some awkward ones. Not entirely. I mean, basically they just sort of kind of keep trying to drive their message home when I think they'd already had it in the rain and lightning storm that Roderick sees, which I won't go into detail on, but I think that scene was the punchline, and that they shouldn't have dealt with it any further from there, because I think every time they bring it up after that, it kind of just seems like guess, overkill in a way. And most specifically in when Madeline starts talking to Roderick about it. So again, if you guys haven't seen the show, I'm doing my best to be as spoiler free as I can, but sort of giving you notes that when you get to it, you can be like, oh, okay, the raining lightning storm in the last episode. Okay, I know what he was talking about now, because it's not exactly that, but you'll know when you see it. But anyways, very strong performances. One of my favorite actors who Flanagan introduced me to, Rahul Cooley, is in it again, and he was the sheriff in Midnight Mass and the chef in Bly Manor, and he's in this one as well, playing a video game developer character, which I thought was pretty funny because I follow the guy on Twitter. He's a pretty big gamer. He actually goes on podcasts with like Alana Pierce and like that sector of video game journalism is the one that are the video game journalists who aren't really working at mainstream outlets anymore, but they did, and they're kind of a little bit more legit than most of the mainstream stuff, but you know, they come out of that world, so they still approach things in a lot of the same way. I think he's got some good taste in video games because I've at least seen him post pictures of himself wearing a Doom shirt. So Rahul, we could maybe be boys, but I mean, I doubt I'm ever going to be friends with Hollywood actors, but I think he's a very good actor, and I think he was very good on this show, and I thought it was pretty funny that they made him a video game developer, because that's kind of his own personality, and the way that it's adapted into The Black Cat, which will be his story, I think is pretty interesting, and it takes a lot of liberties with that story, but it also does, I think, a very respectful job of telling that story in a way which represents Edgar Allan Poe's works, while also fits nicely into the story that Mike Flanagan is trying to tell over the course of this season. The natural daughters, the legal, in wedlock daughters episode is sort of the only one I didn't like. I believe I liked every single other one of them. Whereas that story, the Gold Bug one, is the name of the episode. I thought that was a little on the lame side. I don't know. It was okay, I guess. It wasn't like terrible. I guess I wasn't as interested in her arc from the get-go. And when I saw her episode was that late in the season, like just from, I opened up the Netflix thing to see, okay, that's the redhead girl's episode, that's fine. And I was kind of hoping that, okay, we've seen stuff with her being sort of a Gwyneth Paltrow stand-in, and her husband, who's like a fitness dude, they pop up throughout the entire show. And I kept on thinking, these characters are kind of lame. And then when I saw that their episode was towards the end, I was like, oh, maybe their thing is like really actually very interesting and kind of unique and cool. And they do some unexpected things with it, I suppose, but I didn't think it was overly strong. Yeah, I mean, and, you know, I'm just trying to be honest. I liked the show, but I didn't think it was perfect. However, I will say while I don't think it ever really achieves, maybe not, maybe in that last episode. That last episode is pretty damn good. But I don't know that it ever achieves the heights of episodes 1 through 5 of Midnight Mass. But I think overall, the season is stronger than the whole season of Midnight Mass, because I wasn't pissing myself laughing at the end of it. Because that was the thing with Midnight Mass. The girl who's also in this one, and the actress is fine, but when she looks up at like the other person who she's with and says, "I can't feel my legs," as if she's happy about it, I was like, what? Why are they ending this on that line? That was so silly and seems to kind of come out of nowhere. And I guess I understand why it's like, oh, she's happy about it because now the influence of the evil forces are out of their life. But also, bit of a weird one, gotta say. I don't think that I'd be super happy to be like, my leg's been cut off again. The evil's out of my life. I'd be like, the evil's gone, but I still lost my leg. That sucks. Yeah, well, at least we vanquished the evil. You know, like I'd find joy in it, but I would still be kind of pissed. I don't know. But I think just in general, the last episode of Midnight Mass, I think, really drops the ball. But the last episode of Fall of the House of the Usher, I think, Fall of the House of Usher. God, it's hard to say. But that, again, name of an Edgar Allan Poe story, so don't blame Flanagan for that one. Although I actually kind of think that if they did adapt the title a bit, it might have been an interesting way to kind of make it part of the same universe as The Haunting. Like, if they just called it The Fall of House Usher. Yeah, like, The Fall of Usher House or something like that, as like The Haunting of Hill House, The Haunting of Bly Manor, and The Fall of Usher. I think that would have been kind of cool because obviously it's a very spooky story, which I think is not it's not abundantly clear in the preview that you get on Netflix, the little trailer, because X-Ray Girl and I watched the trailer, and they kind of lead it with the contest which Roderick puts on for them when they find out there's a mole. So there's a mole, I guess, I don't know, an informant. There's an informant who might be one of the people in the family who is leaking information to the FBI or the feds, they say. I guess not necessarily the FBI. That's what I think when I hear feds. But leaking information to the feds, and Roderick basically puts out a bounty and says $50 million to the person who finds the mole. Like, any one of you, if you find out who's been leaking information, that person is going to be nailed to the wall, and the person who brings them to me will get $50 million cash. And don't feel ashamed to bring them to you and betrayed you, because this person has betrayed you already. We're just finding the traitor. And I think that sets up the idea of it being this family trying to, like, outsmart each other and stuff. That is not what the show is at all. Like, to the point that there's an episode where one character is just like, so you think that 50 million still on the table, or is it pretty much like not happening anymore? And then they don't really address it very much after that, which, I mean, to be fair, it is at the point that it's like, oh yeah, that's the least of your worries right now. You should not be worried about winning $50 million because everyone in your family is dying, and you might very well be next at this point. Like, now it seems like someone is trying to kill you, even though the deaths are 100% unrelated. You would think. As far as the laws of reality go, the deaths are 100% unrelated. But we do get one common thread in the form of Miss Carla Gugino, who is aging nicely, gotta say. That's a lady who can take care of themselves. And actually, quite a few on this show. At least of all, Mike Flanagan's wife, Katie. It's Katie Seagal? Or is that the girl from... Is Katie Seagal the one from Sons of Anarchy? Like Peggy? Leela? Or... I don't know. I feel like they have a similar name. Maybe I'm getting her first name wrong. But anyways, the actress who was in Hush and is also the ghost lady from Bly Manor, like the big one, the real one, you know what I'm saying? You probably know if you've seen Bly Manor. But that actress is, she looks beautiful in it, and has kind of an interesting character, I gotta say, and probably one of the most insane deaths that I really actually liked quite a lot. I thought that episode was quite good. Oh, and then also Mary McDonnell, who was the president in Battlestar Galactica. She's the not mother. She's the sister of Roderick, the older version of the sister. Bruce Greenwood playing the older version of Roderick, and he's phenomenal, absolutely amazing. Like, up there with Kino Loy for best performances of the year from older male actors. Because yeah, although he'd be up for the main character award, I believe. Because yeah, he's pretty much the primary protagonist, you could say. Protagonist is a bit of a weird one here because he's not exactly a good guy, but he is the perspective character. Arguably the antagonist, but kind of also the protagonist, I guess. But yeah. Carla Gugino's character is the one who ties everything together, and I think she's used very, very well as the type of entity that she is. And I strongly recommend The Fall of the House of Usher, which is the name of the show, and me not tripping over it.